Can the Big Ten overthrow the SEC as the number one conference in college football? And to do that, I'll be quite honest with you, to do that, that would require the Big Ten to be deeper than the SEC, because the top teams in the Big Ten right now, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, if you want to throw in Michigan in there, maybe throw in Indiana, throw in USC if you want to project a little bit, really just sticking with the top three. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Those three averaged out were better than Texas, Georgia, and either Ole Miss or Alabama, depending on what you want to peg as that third team. I think Ole Miss had the higher ceiling. I don't know about the floor, though. I mean, Alabama had a low floor, but whenever you lose to 4-8 Kentucky, you also have a low floor. So that would be the requirement. And the Big Ten has the better teams at the top, I think, pretty obviously. But do they have the deeper conference? I don't think so. How can the Big Ten catch the SEC? How can they be deeper than the SEC? And through that avenue, by becoming deeper than the SEC, attain that label, that prestigious label, as the number one conference in college football? Well, make sure, before I tell you, to like, to share, to subscribe. All those things are free. They help out the channel. They help you and your friends get quality college football content, best in the business. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers here, and I think with your help we can do it. And also make sure to like the video to help us get into the algorithm. I think the Big Ten can catch the SEC by, number one, attempting to invest in their home recruiting grounds and trying to upgrade their local high school football programs. That is one idea. I think that continuing to leverage their larger and wealthier alumni bases compared to the SEC bases will certainly help. The only SEC schools that have equivalent donor wealth and alumni size and wealth are really the Texas schools in comparison to a lot of Big Ten schools. Texas is one of the wealthiest alumni and largest. A&M is pretty wealthy, and they have a good base. But even A&M's pales in comparisons to, Michigan's, Ohio State's, USC's, even Northwestern's, UCLA's, could go on and on and on. The Big Ten does have much larger endowments with their universities. They have a larger alumni base in totality. Yes, they have two more schools, but their schools do produce more ultra-wealthy alumni, the alumni that can impact the NIL landscape and roster landscape. They can rely on that. They can continue to have better coaching staffs. I think that's the reason why the teams at the top in the Big Ten have averaged out to be better than the top teams in the SEC over the past 2 years. And I think that both Ohio State and Michigan in 2022 were better than Alabama in 2022. So I think that if you were to take Georgia that year, finished first, Alabama, who I think was the fourth best team in America that year, and then Michigan and Ohio State, who were that 2 or 3 and averaged it out. That year was about the year where the Big Ten at the top matched the SEC at the top, and ever since they've passed them. And a huge part of that is I think the Big Ten teams at the top have better coaching staffs than the SEC does at the top, with the exception of Georgia and Kirby Smart, and I think that Texas has a wonderful staff as well. But I view Alabama's staff as a little bit underwhelming. It's the same with A&M. It's the same, I'd say even more so, with LSU and Florida, likes of those. I think that Penn State has the best staff in the land. I think Oregon's and Ohio State's are certainly top 10, probably in that top 5 range. I think Indiana is up there. I think even a school in Michigan State has one of the better staffs in the country. And Michigan's staff is underwhelming relative to its profile, but I think it's probably a better staff than Florida's or some of the SEC schools that want to win games and want to compete for conference titles, playoff spots, and maybe even national titles. And I'm not the biggest fan of Michigan's staff. So those are avenues for the Big Ten to catch the SEC, to invest in local high school football in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Pennsylvania, the DMV area, areas where Big Ten schools recruit, like California, Oregon, Washington. and make football in those schools matter more, allow tackle football at younger ages, as that helps players to develop at a faster rate and become better players, as long as you can do it safely. But I imagine there are ways to do that. Invest in local high school football. Continue in this new era of name, image, and likeness. Part of the reason why I think the Big Ten has caught up with the SEC is they've leveraged their larger, ultra wealthy alumni bases. Continue to do that. Invest in football, not just at a lower level like high school where you recruit from, but in the portal, in development, in being able to keep and retain your players either from going to the NFL or transferring out. And third, keep it up with the coaching and the superior coaching to the SEC and every other conference. But will they ever catch the SEC in depth? That's the question. Will. That is what Gyro, fan of the channel, viewer of the channel, very active in my Discord server. You should join it, by the way. Links in the description. Navigate to the hashtag YouTube mailbox channel. Ask me a question, and in due time I will make a video on it, as I am doing with Gyro's question. He asked, will they? And it's a to-be-determined answer, but if I had to lean one way, I would lean no. Because I think the House settlement has shown college football wants order, and the wild, wild west and no order actually benefits the Big Ten the most. Because the SEC, they have the homegrown recruiting talent, they care about football more. Consequently, by caring about football more at a state level, at a personal level, they are going to do a better job of under-the-table deals, better job at cheating, and that doesn't even matter as much in a general sense as just caring about the sport. Like the SEC, I think the average SEC fan and school cares about football and is more passionate about it than the average Big Ten fan. I just do. And that matters. It does. Players out of high school can sense that. And more often than not, players want to stay home if they can. And the SEC in the Deep South still produces the best talent, like Georgia, for example. Texas is now a part of the SEC, along with A&M. So the SEC gets, their hands deeper into the Texas area. SEC dominates Florida recruiting in a lot of different ways. Then you have Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, for example. They're close to the Carolinas, and they can recruit at a national level and have pipelines in schools like California, even dipped into Ohio. The SEC has recently. I'm inclined to say no, but unlike 10 years ago, I think there is a visible avenue, a light at the end of the tunnel if you're a fan of the Big Ten, for it to happen. And that is being patient, that is investing in high school football, that is Tony Petitti and the Big Ten demanding Big Ten institutions to care more about football than any other sport. Would be tough for a program like Purdue, for example, or maybe even UCLA now, but I think it's doable. And retain your good coaches and make sure that you retain some chaos in the NIL landscape, because since you're disproportionately richer, that benefits you.